If you look around your room right now, your phone, laptop, headphones, maybe even the chair you're sitting on, there's a high chance most of them were made in China. For years, people in the West mocked China as just the world's factory. Cheap labor, low quality, that was the stereotype. But fast forward to today, and the tables have completely turned. China is no longer just assembling products. It's designing, innovating, and dominating entire industries. From electric cars and solar panels to advanced robotics and semiconductors, China has built a manufacturing ecosystem that no other country can match. The irony? The West actually helped China get there. In trying to save money, Western companies handed over their manufacturing, and in doing so, handed over the keys to the future. So how did China outsmart the West in manufacturing? Let's break it down. Number 1. The Western dream versus Chinese reality. In the 1980s and 1990s, Western corporations had a simple idea: outsource manufacturing to China, cut costs, and boost profits. China was opening up its economy under Deng Xiaoping, offering cheap labor, tax incentives, and a massive workforce ready to work. It was a perfect deal, or at least it seemed that way. The West thought it could keep the brains of production, research, design, innovation, while China handled the hands, low-end assembly. But Beijing had a different plan. While foreign companies like Apple, Nike, and General Motors rushed in to take advantage of cheap labor, China was quietly learning everything it could, from production techniques to management systems and quality control. Foreign companies brought technology, training, and equipment into China. Chinese engineers and managers absorbed that knowledge like sponges. Over time, they started their own firms, improved on what they'd learned, and began competing directly. By the early 2000s, the West realized something shocking. China wasn't just manufacturing things, it was mastering the entire process. A study by the World Bank found that between 2000 and 2020, China's share of global manufacturing output grew from 7% to nearly 30%, while the US share fell from 25% to just 16%. In less than 2 decades, China became the world's manufacturing powerhouse. And it wasn't just because of cheap labor, it was because of strategy. Number 2. How China built the most efficient supply chain on Earth. China didn't just build factories, it built an entire ecosystem. Think of it like this. In the West, you might need to ship parts across 3 countries to assemble one product. In China, everything you need is often found within a single city. Take Shenzhen, for example. It started as a small fishing village in the 1980s. Today, it's the electronics capital of the world. Every part you need to build a smartphone, screens, chips, batteries, casings, can be found within a few miles. Companies can prototype and mass-produce products at lightning speed. That's why startups from all over the world go to Shenzhen to turn their ideas into real products. There's simply no place on Earth that can match its efficiency. China also invested heavily in infrastructure. High-speed railways, modern ports, and massive logistics hubs connect the country like a nervous system. The port of Shanghai is now the busiest container port in the world, handling over 47 million TEUs, containers, in 2023, more than double what major Western ports can manage. Meanwhile, China's power grid ensures that even remote industrial zones have stable electricity, something that even the US struggles with in certain regions. And it's not just about logistics. China's industrial clusters are highly specialized. For instance, Guangdong is known for consumer electronics, Zhejiang for textiles and small goods, Anhui for home appliances, and Jiangsu for advanced materials and semiconductors. Each region focuses on specific industries, creating synergy between suppliers, manufacturers, and research centers. This level of coordination is what makes China's manufacturing unbeatable. While Western companies chase quarterly profits, China plays the long game, building entire cities dedicated to specific industries. That's not just business planning, that's industrial strategy. Number 3. Innovation, not just imitation. For years, critics in the West accused China of copying products. And yes, in the early stages, many Chinese companies did learn by imitation, just like Japan and South Korea did before them. But that narrative is outdated. Today, China isn't just copying, it's leading. Let's take BYD, one of China's biggest electric vehicle makers. In 2023, BYD officially outsold Tesla in global EV sales, delivering over 3 million vehicles compared to Tesla's 1.8 million. BYD doesn't just assemble cars, it produces its own batteries, chips, and components. Even Tesla now buys batteries from BYD. Or consider CATL, the world's largest battery producer, supplying brands like BMW, Mercedes, and even Ford. CATL holds more than 30% of the global EV battery market, far ahead of any Western competitor. Then there's BJI, the drone manufacturer from Shenzhen. It controls over 70% of the drone market, an industry that barely existed 2 decades ago. Today, even the US military has admitted that no Western company can match DJI's quality and affordability. And we can't forget Huawei. Despite US sanctions and being cut off from critical American technology, Huawei managed to bounce back with its own 7nm chip, made entirely within China's domestic supply chain. That shocked analysts worldwide, showing that China could still innovate under pressure. All these examples prove one thing. China isn't just a manufacturer anymore, it's an innovator. It's moved up the value chain, producing not just cheap goods, but high-tech ones. A decade ago, people laughed at Chinese smartphones. Now, Xiaomi, Oppo, and Huawei are competing head-to-head with Apple and Samsung, offering similar performance at half the price. In 2023, China filed over 1.6 million patents, more than any other country in the world. That's more than the US, Japan, and South Korea combined. So next time someone says China only copies, they might want to check the numbers. Number 4. Government support and long-term vision. One of the biggest differences between China and the West is how they approach industrial policy. In the US and Europe, governments mostly leave the market to the side. In China, the government actively shapes the direction of entire industries. Beijing's Made in China 2025 plan is a perfect example. Announced in 2015, it aimed to make China a leader in 10 key sectors, including robotics, aerospace, new energy vehicles, and advanced materials. Many Western critics called it state capitalism, but guess what? It's working. Through subsidies, tax breaks, and research grants, the Chinese government helps companies take risks and scale faster. For instance, local governments often provide cheap land and financing for factories, helping startups turn into giants. A good example is the solar industry. Back in the 2000s, Europe dominated solar panel production, but China decided it wanted in and poured billions into supporting domestic companies. Today, China produces over 80% of the world's solar panels, and Western firms simply can't compete on cost or scale. The same story is playing out in electric vehicles, shipbuilding, and 5G technology. Meanwhile, Western governments are only now realizing the importance of manufacturing after decades of offshoring it. The US recently launched the CHIPS and Science Act, offering $52 billion to revive semiconductor production. But even so, building one advanced chip factory takes years and billions more. China, on the other hand, already has hundreds of chip-related firms working together, supported by regional governments, universities, and state banks. The difference is clear. While the West reacts to problems, China plans decades ahead. And number 5, the workforce advantage. Another underrated factor behind China's manufacturing success is its people. The country's workforce isn't just massive, it's skilled, adaptable, and fast learning. Every year, China graduates over 10 million university students, and about 40% of them are in STEM fields: science, technology, engineering, and math. Compare that to the US, where only around 20% of graduates are in those fields. China also has a strong vocational education system, training millions of technicians, welders, machinists, and engineers. These are the people who actually build the machines that build everything else. And unlike in the West, where manufacturing jobs are often looked down upon, in China, they're seen as stable and respected. Many workers take pride in being part of the country's industrial rise. Culturally, there's also a huge difference. Chinese companies are known for their speed and flexibility. They can redesign a product, adjust production, or scale up overnight, something that Western manufacturers often struggle with due to bureaucracy or union restrictions. During the pandemic, for example, when the world faced a shortage of masks and medical supplies, China ramped up production almost instantly. At one point, China produced 100 million masks per day, supplying the entire world. That kind of agility comes from years of experience, coordination, and the can-do mindset that's deeply ingrained in the country's manufacturing DNA. The West's struggle to catch up. Now, the US and Europe are trying to bring manufacturing back home, but it's not that simple. Building factories is easy. Rebuilding ecosystems is hard. For example, when Apple explored moving iPhone production out of China, they quickly ran into problems. In China, Apple can find hundreds of thousands of skilled workers at short notice. In the US, it's nearly impossible. A former Apple executive once said, "In China, if you need 200,000 factory workers, you can find them within days. In America, that would take months." And even if Western countries invest billions to rebuild manufacturing, they lack China's tightly integrated supply chains, logistics, and workforce. China's competitive edge isn't just cost, it's coordination. It's the entire system working in harmony. That's why even now, many Western companies are still heavily dependent on Chinese suppliers, despite all the talk about decoupling. In 2024, US-China trade reached over $439 billion, showing that economic interdependence is still incredibly strong. Even as politicians talk tough, businesses quietly keep buying from China because, simply put, there's no better alternative. What the future looks like. So, what's next for China's manufacturing story? Well, the country's already moving towards smart manufacturing. Automation, AI-driven production, and robotics are taking over. Factories are becoming more efficient, less labor-dependent, and more environmentally friendly. Take Haier, one of China's biggest appliance makers. Its factories use an AI system that predicts demand, adjusts production in real time, and customizes products for individual customers. Or look at Foxconn's smart factories in Shenzhen, where over 80% of repetitive tasks are automated, operated by robots instead of humans. China is also leading the global green transition. It dominates in solar, wind, and electric vehicles, all essential for a low-carbon future. As the world moves away from fossil fuels, China's industrial base is already positioned to lead the next wave of growth. Even the World Economic Forum recognized this shift, listing more than half of the world's lighthouse factories, model factories for innovation and sustainability, as being in China. Meanwhile, the West is still debating industrial policy, facing labor shortages, and dealing with political polarization that makes long-term planning difficult. China, for all its challenges, remains focused, disciplined, and strategic. China didn't outsmart the West overnight. It took decades of planning, hard work, and patience. The West wanted cheap labor. China wanted knowledge. The West thought it could control the supply chain. China built its own. And now, while the US and Europe talk about reindustrialization, China is already preparing for the next stage: intelligent, green, and autonomous manufacturing. Sure, China still faces challenges, rising labor costs, overcapacity, and geopolitical tension, but it's proven one thing beyond doubt. When it comes to manufacturing, China plays chess while the rest of the world plays checkers. So the next time you pick up a phone or drive an electric car, remember, it's not just made in China, it's mastered in China. So what do you think? Do you agree with our video? Tell us what you think by leaving your comments below. And if you like what you watched, make sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to show your support.